Okay, so I wanted to do another video to kind of explain some things that have been happening, like that God's been showing me in the last week or so. And what's cool is it's not just me. God's pouring out His Spirit on my friends, really just anybody that'll say yes. It's just been really neat. I wish I had my Bible with me so that I could read these specific passages, but 2 weeks ago, a lady that I'm friends with, she sent me a passage of scripture from Jeremiah 9, and I think it started in verse 17, and it was talking about the cries of Zion are being heard, and the wailing women, and I can't, I'm just basically talking about it from memory, but that was the gist of it, was talking about just crying out, and the cries of Zion are heard. And so she said, I'm not sure why the Lord put this on my heart, but she's I just feel like God, led me to this. And so she sent me that passage, and I thought it was interesting, but I didn't really understand why, why God would put that on her heart. And another friend 2 weeks ago sent me a dream that she had written down, and it was about these seeds being fertilized, and just multiplying, and they were white, and they were pure, and it was symbolizing the fertilization of seeds all over the earth. And then another friend actually woke up in the middle of the night. This is a different friend. And she was saying things. She said all these things were coming out of my mouth, and I was just talking. She woke herself up, and she's I've never done that before. And she said the last thing I said was, seeds are scattered all over the earth. And she was where did that even come from? And anyway, so that happened. And these are all different people. Another friend last week told me about a dream she had, and she was in a church, and she said it was the whole church was glass, and it was daytime, and there was just this storm, it just started pouring on the church during the day, it was light outside. And she said it was just this massive storm, and the doors of the church kept open and shutting, swinging open and shut, because it was the wind and the power of the storm was crazy. And so of course the interpretation of that is the pouring out of the Spirit on the church. So these are just that was 4 different people that told me things. One of my friends told me last week about a dream that she had where a woman was in labor. And that was basically what her dream was about, this woman in labor. And she said she actually woke up last week, when she had this dream, she woke up to the sound of a baby crying. And I was I was kind of confused because she doesn't have a baby. And so I was were you babysitting? Did a real baby wake you up? Or was it supernatural? And she said, no, it was supernatural. I was dreaming of a woman in labor, and I actually woke up hearing a baby crying, and it was not a real baby. It was supernatural. There's no other way to explain it. And so anyway, then she sent me what her Bible study was about that morning, and it was from Micah chapter 4, and it was about women in labor, and writhe like a woman in labor, and talking about just labor, women in labor, and the groanings of women in labor, and the crying of women in labor. And it reminded me so much of what the other lady had sent me the week prior that I didn't really understand from Jeremiah 9 about just the wailing is heard from Zion, and that from Jeremiah 9:17, where she had sent me, and then this other friend from Micah chapter 4. You know, she said, I dreamed of a woman in labor. I woke up to the sound of a baby crying. And then this was my Bible study that day, and it was talking about women in labor. And I was like, all of this stuff, you know, it's like different people that don't even know each other are kind of like telling me the same thing. And it has to do with like crying out and God hearing from Zion. Like, I hear your crying. And also the seeds scattered all over the earth, you know, is like, I believe, just talking about this harvest that's birthing. And also just the multiple people that are telling me things, you know, like the friend that had the dream of the church with the rain just pouring over the church. You know, she just started having dreams, you know, because a lot of it, I think, is just a hunger, you know, in her heart. And so she's just been asking God, and now she's dreaming, you know. It's just really cool because it's different people, and these people don't know each other, and they're just kind of telling me these those and it's like God is pouring out his spirit in a mighty, mighty way. And so those are just accounts from my friends. But for me personally, Tuesday night of last week, I had another vision of darkness, which I hadn't had that happen since the story I shared, you know, from the family member, like whenever I helped him. I think it was back in March. So it had been a while since I've had a vision like that, but I had a vision of darkness that night. And then I also had a dream. And in my dream, there was a woman in labor. And I had this dream like the day after my friend told me about her dream of the woman in labor. And she had told me how she woke up to the sound of a baby crying. And I was thinking, like, how cool. Well, that very, like, next day, I dreamed it. Like, I dreamed the same thing. Like, I dreamed that I met this woman and that she went into labor, and I was with her at the hospital. And at the hospital, I know this might sound kind of weird, but my mental state, like whenever we were at the hospital together, like I had this confidence in me at the hospital, like in my dream of like, it was pretty much like I knew that the power of Jesus was in me. Like I had this demeanor, like I don't know if it's because she was afraid because she was in labor, but it was almost like I was like just so confident, just like, oh, it's okay. Like I have the power of Jesus in me. Like, I know it sounds kind of funny just saying it, but that's how I was thinking in my dream. Like, I have his power at my disposal, like if we need it. Like, and it's almost kind of funny saying it, but it's like, that's how assured I was of like just like the power of Jesus, like at my disposal, you know. And that was my mindset in the dream of just, I had this just confidence. And I lack that in real life, you know, like in real life, doubt creeps in, and, you know, like there's people that I think like I want to go pray for, and then I just like end up letting fear and doubt creep in. But it's like in that dream, it's like I was almost feeling like this is how I'm supposed to be. Like this is how faith really is. Like I just had this, like, I just know, like, if we need anything, like I have the power of Jesus. Like, and it was just kind of cool how that happened. But anyway, so that woman was in labor, and I don't know who she was. Like, she was a stranger. And twice in the middle of the night that night, I know this sounds crazy, but I also woke up to the sound of a baby crying. And I do have a baby, but like I woke up because, you know, like if you hear your baby crying in the middle of the night, it wakes you up. And so I woke up hearing a baby crying. And then once like I was awake, my baby wasn't crying. Like there was no baby really crying. And I knew like God was doing the same thing, like that my friend had told me about, how she woke up to the actual sound of a baby crying. It happened to me, and it happened to me twice that night. Tuesday night last week, I actually woke up hearing the sound of a baby crying, and my baby wasn't crying. totally supernatural, you know, and the dream of a woman being in birth, like of a labor, you know, it just blew me away. And I woke up that morning, and I'm doing a Bible study right now with some friends, and I was trying to think of like what I wanted to share that morning, and I was thinking about Song of Solomon, and I just love Song of Solomon now. Like, it's a conversation between like Jesus and his bride, which is the church. And so like I opened my Bible to Song of Solomon, and it just opened to chapter 7. And I don't have my Bible with me right now, so I'm gonna have to just say this from memory, but I believe it was chapter 7, verse like 3 or 4, but this is the Passion Translation. And it said, like, I just had this green box around this verse, like in chapter 7, like already there. So when I opened my Bible, I just saw this, like this verse just staring at me that I had boxed in. And it said something like, in your womb, there is birthing a harvest of wheat. And I was like, what? Like, just considering my dream about childbirth. Like, I dreamed about childbirth. I dreamed about it. Like, I actually heard babies crying in the middle of the night, like woke me up twice. And in your womb, there is birthing a harvest of wheat. And I thought about the harvest, like the wheat, you know, like how my other friend told me she woke up in the middle of the night saying seeds are scattered all over the earth. And then another friend saying that she had the dream about the multiplying seeds, you know, that were being fertilized. And the other lady, you know, that sent me Jeremiah 9 talking about, you know, the wailing is heard from Zion. And then Micah 4 that my friend sent me about, you know, groaning like labor pains, that there was so much connected. Like, if you connect the dots of what God's been showing, like different ones of us, you know, like I had my own dream of a woman in labor, and I had this confident air about me whenever I was at the hospital, of just this knowledge of my power in Christ, you know, and I believe that that's what God's calling us to cry out. Like, he is hearing our pleas, he is hearing our cries, he is wanting us, his church, to cry out for this outpouring of his Spirit, because as we do, he's releasing it. Like, as we cry out, he is hearing it, and he is releasing his Spirit on this earth. And so I just think that, you know, like, you know, the other friend that dreamed of the outpouring on the church, just this downpour during the day, like it was daylight outside, and it's just that just reminds me of his light. Like, he is pouring out his Spirit on his church, and he is calling us to cry out for it, to groan like a woman in labor, you know. And I think about like Romans 8, where it talks about the whole creation groans for the revealing of the children of God. You know, there's just this cry in our hearts for him to just pour out his Spirit on this earth, and we're seeing it, and I'm seeing it in my friends, and I'm seeing like this hunger ignite in hearts. And so I just think it's so cool, and God is so good, and it's like, it's just neat to be having these conversations, because like I'm connecting the dots, you know. Like, Jeremiah 9 didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but then once I read, you know, my other friend about Micah 4, you know, that was basically talking about the same thing. And then, well, you know, from what I saw, Song of Solomon 7, where it talked about in your womb there is birthing a harvest of wheat. You know, it's like it's like this labor pain of the church that we're groaning for. It's birthing the harvest, and he's hearing the cries. He's hearing the cries, and the actual cries that I heard in the middle of the night, and the actual cries that my friend heard, that, you know, when she told me about that initially, you know, it's like, I believe we are at the birth of it. You know, it's like we've been crying out, and we're still crying out, but we are at the actual birth, the birth of the harvest. God is doing big, big, big things, and it's exciting. And I just wanted to share that. And so anyway, I guess that's all I'm going to share for now. And I just pray that like in all these videos, like, you know, God just kept telling me, open your mouth and declare my glory. And that's what I'm doing. Like, you know, it's to show what he's doing on this earth. It's to show that God is moving in this earth. And it's to create just a yearning in your heart for more of him, and to just go deeper with him, and to pray, like, for him to reveal himself to you, because he is, you know, he's pouring out his spirit on this earth, and he's just looking for his children to say yes, and just to stand there, you know, just wide open for what he wants to do, and for you to just move into like a new territory with him, and for you to not be afraid, and for you to step out, you know, in your sphere of influence, and to just be his mouthpiece in this earth, and just to declare what he is doing and declare what he is saying. And it's a really exciting time. And again, I just encourage you, like, to give God the night, because so many of my friends are now dreaming, and it's so cool, because it's like, when, you know, he places that hunger in your heart, like that desire in your heart is from him. You know, he gives you the desires of your heart, and you know, this longing that you have, you know, to experience that, that's him, and he longs to give you that, and he longs to pour himself out, you know, and so just be open to him, and share, like, just share with others what he's doing. And, you know, I think that this hunger, this spiritual hunger, is just this groaning, you know, this groaning for more, this groaning, like, pour out your spirit, God, pour out your spirit, and he's hearing it, and it's coming through, and his spirit's pouring out, and it's just incredible. So I just wanted to share that. It was really, really cool, just kind of what I've been hearing, and it links so much to what I've been experiencing personally. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that.